Welcome to one of the most powerful and unforgettable stories you will ever hear. This is not just a biography. This is not just an English lesson. This is a journey. A journey into the real, painful, and inspiring life of a man who lost everything, and then became one of the most successful and loved actors in the world. Today, we're talking about Robert Downey Jr. Yes, the man who played Iron Man, the genius, the billionaire, the superhero, the man who helped build the Marvel Universe, the face of the Avengers, the one who gave us that emotional final line, "I am Iron Man." But behind the red and gold suit, there is a man with deep scars, real pain, and a long history of struggle. You may think you know him, but today, you'll see the truth behind the fame. Because before he was Iron Man, he was a broken boy, born into chaos. He didn't grow up in a happy home. He didn't live a normal childhood. He didn't go to school like other kids, and he didn't smile like a boy should. His journey started with drugs, confusion, and a search for love he never received. And yet, he turned that pain into power. He turned that broken childhood into unshakable strength. He turned his shame into a shining story of transformation. So why should you listen to this story? Because it's real. Because it will touch your heart. Because it will inspire you to keep going, no matter what you're facing. And while you listen, you will also improve your English, understand emotions, learn life vocabulary, and feel more connected to the language and the world. So take a deep breath. Open your heart. And let's begin the story of a boy who became Iron Man. Part 1. The boy who was born into chaos. Robert John Downey Jr. was born on April 4, 1965, in Manhattan, New York City, in the United States. From the outside, it looked like he was born lucky. His father, Robert Downey Sr., was a well-known filmmaker. He made experimental, strange, and creative movies. He was a part of the New York underground film scene, where people were free, wild, and often living outside the rules. His mother, Elsie Ann, was an actress. She acted in some of her husband's films, and she was known for her sweet voice and gentle presence. So from day one, Robert Jr. was surrounded by cameras, scripts, artists, musicians, dancers, and strange energy. But this was not a home of peace. It was a home of chaos. Imagine being a child who wakes up in the middle of the night to see strangers in the living room. People drinking, people shouting, people smoking. Imagine being a little boy who sees his father doing drugs on the kitchen table. And instead of being taken to school, he's taken to a film set. This was Robert's reality. His father, Robert Downey Sr., was high most of the time. He was not a responsible man. He was an artist, yes. But he was also addicted to alcohol, marijuana, and cocaine. He thought giving drugs to his son was no big deal. And so, when Robert Jr. was just 6 years old, his father gave him marijuana. That moment would change Robert's life forever. At that age, he didn't even understand what it was. He just trusted his father, and he wanted to feel loved, even if that love came through something wrong. But it wasn't love. It was the beginning of a very long nightmare. Robert didn't have a stable life. Because his father was a filmmaker, they moved often, from New York to California and back again. He lived in places where he didn't know the neighbors. He changed schools so many times that he couldn't make lasting friendships. He often felt like a stranger, even in his own home. At school, he wasn't like other kids. He couldn't focus. He felt different. He was full of emotions he couldn't explain. And deep inside, he was angry and confused. He wanted to be loved. He wanted someone to tell him, "It's okay. I'm here. I believe in you." But no one did. And so, he kept looking for peace in the wrong places. When Robert was just 10 years old, something happened that shattered his heart. His parents got divorced. His mother stayed in New York, and his father moved to Los Angeles. For Robert, this felt like being cut in half. He loved them both, even though they had problems. But now, he had to choose. He chose to go with his father, the man who introduced him to movies and drugs. And in Los Angeles, his life became even more wild. Robert started acting very young. He appeared in his father's films like Pound and Greaser's Palace. He had a natural talent. Even when he was just a child, he could express emotions, remember lines, and charm the camera. People said he had the eyes of a star. But behind those eyes was a boy who didn't know who he was. His father put him in movies, but never gave him real guidance. His mother loved him, but lived far away. And school didn't make sense to him. So at age 17, Robert dropped out of high school. He packed a few clothes. He left his mother's apartment in New York, and he flew to Hollywood. Alone, with no plan, no money, and only one dream. Maybe I can become something. At 17, Hollywood is not a safe place, especially not for someone like Robert. He had no agent, no manager, no car, no home. He lived in small rooms, shared apartments, slept on floors, and went to auditions. He was rejected, again and again. People told him, "You're too intense. You're not handsome enough. You have too much energy. You're not the leading man type." But he kept trying. He got small roles in films like Weird Science, 1985, where he played a school bully. Then he joined Saturday Night Live for one season. But he didn't enjoy it. And most people didn't even notice him. He wasn't becoming a star. He was just another struggling actor in a city full of dreams and broken hearts. Everything changed in 1992. Robert was cast to play Charlie Chaplin in the movie Chaplin. It was a difficult role. Chaplin was a legend, one of the greatest silent film actors of all time. To play him, Robert had to learn to walk like him, speak like him, understand his pain, feel his joy, and carry his story with respect. He worked non-stop. He trained his body, studied Chaplin's life, and gave everything he had to the role. And it worked. When Chaplin was released, critics were amazed. People said, "This is one of the best performances we've seen. This young man is going to be a legend." Robert was nominated for an Academy Award, Oscar for Best Actor. He was invited to talk shows. He wore sharp suits. He stood tall on red carpets. For the first time, he felt seen. He felt respected. But deep inside, the monster of addiction was still alive. Part 2. Falling from the Top. After his Oscar-nominated performance in Chaplin in 1992, everyone thought Robert Downey Jr. was going to become one of the greatest actors in Hollywood. But while the world clapped for him on stage, he was crying alone behind the curtain, because something terrible was growing inside him, a monster he couldn't control. That monster was called addiction. What is addiction? Addiction is not just about taking drugs. It's when you feel empty inside, and you need something, anything, to escape that emptiness. For Robert, drugs had started when he was a child. They were always there, like a friend and a killer. He once said, "When my dad and I did drugs together, it was like he was trying to express love. It was our way of bonding, but it was also a way to ruin both our lives." By the mid-1990s, Robert was working in the day, shooting big movies, and getting high at night, using heroin, cocaine, and alcohol. Sometimes he would come to the set late. Sometimes he didn't come at all. Sometimes he would speak lines so fast that even the directors didn't understand him. But even worse, sometimes he would drive under the influence, not just risking his life, but risking the lives of others. First arrest. In 1996, everything exploded. Police stopped Robert while he was speeding on the Pacific Coast Highway. What did they find? Cocaine, heroin, a gun, and an actor who had lost control. A few weeks later, he entered a neighbor's house by mistake while he was high, and slept in their child's bed. Yes, it sounds unbelievable, but it's true. He was arrested again, and again, and again. Hollywood started saying, "He's a great actor, but we can't work with him anymore. He's too risky." In 1999, the judge finally said, "Enough." Robert was sentenced to 1 year in prison. He went to the California Substance Abuse Treatment Facility, a prison for people with drug problems. Can you imagine? A man who was once nominated for an Oscar, now standing in a jail uniform behind bars with criminals. He spent months there. No special food, no private room, no cameras, just walls, bars, and silence. While Robert was in prison, many people thought, "He's a rich actor. He'll be fine." But they were wrong. Prison does not care about your fame. Prison does not care about your movies. It's cold, it's hard, it's dangerous. And for Robert, it was hell. One night, he was sleeping in his cell when another prisoner attacked him, violently. He didn't even see it coming. He was beaten badly, punched in the face, thrown to the ground. He tried to scream. He tried to protect himself. But it was too late. When the guards came, they saw a pool of blood. He was rushed to the prison medical unit. His face was swollen. His ribs were bruised. His soul was shattered. He later said, "I felt like I'd been thrown into a tub of blood. I was bleeding, I was shaking, and I was thinking, is this how I'm going to die?" That night, everything changed. Because it wasn't just about drugs anymore. It was about survival. It was about life or death. Robert had already lost his freedom, his work, and his family. Now he almost lost his life. That was the moment he knew. If I don't change, I'm going to die here. After he came out, he said he wanted to change. He said he wanted to stop using drugs. People believed him. Or at least they hoped he was telling the truth. And so, he got another chance. He joined a TV show called Ally McBeal in 2000. He was charming, funny, and fans loved him. He even won a Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actor. It looked like Robert was back, but the monster wasn't dead yet. In 2001, something happened that shocked even his biggest fans. Robert was found walking alone in a dark alleyway in Los Angeles. He was barefoot, confused, and possibly not wearing any clothes. He didn't know where he was. He didn't know what he was doing. Neighbors called the police. They were scared. They didn't recognize him. When police arrived, they saw a man who once stood on red carpets, now wandering like a lost child in the cold, dirty streets, broken, confused, and far away from who he used to be. He was arrested again. And this time, the whole world saw it on the news. A famous actor, an Oscar nominee, found half naked, lost, and alone because of drugs. That moment became a symbol of how far he had fallen. He later said, "I didn't care about anything anymore. I was gone. I wasn't living. I was disappearing." This was his rock bottom, the lowest point of his life. While his career was falling apart, so was his personal life. He had married Deborah Falconer, a singer and actress, in 1992. They had a son named Indio, born in 1993. But Robert's drug problems made family life impossible. He was absent. He was high. He was lost. In 2001, after nearly a decade of trying to stay together, Deborah left him. She took their son and walked away. Robert was now truly alone. No job, no wife, no child, no peace, no future. From 2001 to 2003, Robert tried to get clean. He entered rehab centers. He attended counseling. He promised to change. But addiction is like a shadow. Even when the sun shines, it follows you. He would stay sober for weeks or months, then fall again. He was caught with drugs. He was put on probation. He wore a court-ordered ankle monitor. He became a symbol of what happens when fame and addiction mix. But something was about to change. In 2003, something happened that would save his life. He met a woman. Her name was Susan Levin, a smart, confident, and focused film producer. They met on the set of the film Gothica. Susan didn't fall for his charm. She didn't care about his past. She looked him in the eyes and said, "I will not be with you unless you change." Robert was shocked, but deep inside, he wanted to be better. He wanted to be clean. He wanted to be a good father, a good man, and maybe a good husband again. So for the first time, he made a real decision. He said goodbye to drugs, not just in words, but in action. He threw all his drugs into the ocean. He started doing martial arts. He practiced meditation, yoga, and therapy. He stayed away from toxic people. And slowly, the monsters started getting smaller. Even though he was clean now, no one believed him. Producers still remembered the old Robert, the one who didn't show up, the one who wasted millions, the one who went to jail. Part 3. The Rise of a Real-Life Iron Man. Robert didn't just stop drugs. He rebuilt his entire lifestyle. Let's understand how deeply he changed. Diet. He switched to healthy food, Organic fruits, vegetables, clean protein. No junk, no sugar, no alcohol. Fitness. He trained in Wing Chun, a Chinese martial art. Every morning, every evening. Strict discipline. Spiritual practice. He practiced meditation daily. He read books on Zen philosophy. He studied silence. He tried to heal the damage inside his heart and mind. Therapy. He didn't hide from his past anymore. He talked to psychologists. He accepted his pain. He forgave his father. He faced the boy inside him who had started drugs at age 6. It was not 1 week, not 1 month. It took years of quiet, private work. But he did it. And then, one day, the phone rang. The year was 2006. Marvel Studios, a company that had never made its own film before, was planning to launch a new cinematic universe. Something that had never been done. They needed a strong actor to play a rich, arrogant genius named Tony Stark. Tony Stark was not a typical superhero. He was flawed. He was sarcastic. He was wounded inside. He was also a billionaire arms dealer who would become a hero after facing his own destruction. Marvel looked at many big names, but someone said, "Why don't we try Robert Downey Jr.?" Most people in the room laughed. "Robert? He's unstable. He's risky. He'll destroy the film." But one man didn't laugh. Jon Favreau, the director of Iron Man, said, "No, he is Tony Stark. This isn't acting. This is his real story." The studio said no. Marvel still said no. They didn't want to risk a $140 million movie on a man who had been to prison, who had no box office success in years, and who was called uninsurable. Yes, Robert was labeled uninsurable. This means that film companies wouldn't even pay for insurance if he failed. But Jon Favreau fought. He believed in Robert. He said, "Just let him audition." And when Robert came in and read the lines of Tony Stark, the room went silent. They weren't watching a performance. They were watching a rebirth. Marvel finally agreed. With conditions. Robert would get only $500,000. Very low for a lead actor. He would be tested regularly for drugs. If he missed work even once, he'd be replaced. Robert didn't argue. He looked them in the eye and said, "Give me this role. I'll show you who I really am." Robert didn't just act. He became Tony Stark. In many ways, Tony's journey mirrored Robert's. Tony had been a rich, selfish man selling weapons until he was captured and almost killed. That near-death moment woke him up. He built a suit. He became Iron Man. Similarly, Robert had been a rich, selfish man, destroying his body with drugs, until he was arrested and nearly lost his life. That moment woke him up. He rebuilt himself. He became Iron Man. It was a perfect match, not of character and actor, but of two broken souls learning to become heroes. In May 2008, Iron Man released. People expected a decent film. What they got was magic. Robert Downey Jr. wasn't just good. He was electrifying. Audiences laughed, cried, and clapped. The movie made over $585 million worldwide. It kickstarted the Marvel Cinematic Universe, now the most successful movie franchise in history. Suddenly, the man nobody trusted became the man everyone loved. And Marvel gave him more. After Iron Man's success, Robert didn't stop. He starred in Tropic Thunder, 2008, nominated for another Oscar. Sherlock Holmes, 2009, blockbuster hit. Iron Man 2, 2010. The Avengers, 2012, crossed $1.5 billion worldwide. Iron Man 3, 2013, another $1.2 billion hit. Avengers, Age of Ultron, 2015. Captain America, Civil War, 2016. Spider-Man, Homecoming, 2017. Avengers, Infinity War, 2018. Avengers, Endgame, 2019. Over $2.7 billion, one of the highest-grossing movies ever. By 2013, Robert Downey Jr. became the highest-paid actor in Hollywood, earning $75 million per year. But more than money, he had earned something much bigger: respect, love, redemption. He wasn't a joke anymore. He was a symbol of strength, a man who fell hard and rose even higher. Robert married Susan Levin in 2005. He says she saved his life. They have a beautiful son, Exton, born in 2012, and a daughter, Avery, born in 2014. Robert became a better father to Indio, his first son. He supported Indio through his own drug recovery. They now share a close, healing relationship. Robert spends time reading, cooking vegan meals, practicing martial arts, and staying away from Hollywood drama. He built a beautiful home, not to show off, but as a safe space to stay grounded. In Avengers Endgame, released in 2019, Iron Man makes the ultimate sacrifice. He snaps his fingers to destroy Thanos, saying the legendary words, "I am Iron Man." And with that, he dies, saving the universe. In theaters around the world, people cried. Not just because a character died, but because Robert Downey Jr.'s journey had come full circle. From a drug addict in a jail cell to a superhero who saved the world. In cinemas across the globe, millions of fans stood silently as Tony Stark, also known as Iron Man, closed his eyes for the last time. It wasn't just a movie moment. It was the end of an era. And behind that superhero mask was not just a character. It was Robert Downey Jr., the man who had fought his own real-life wars and survived them all. The man who once woke up in a prison cell was now leaving the biggest movie franchise in the world. As a legend, when an actor plays a role for 11 years, especially a role as iconic as Iron Man, leaving that behind is not easy. Robert had lived and breathed Tony Stark. They were the same in many ways. Both had made mistakes. Both were brilliant but broken. Both learned to rebuild themselves. After Avengers Endgame in 2019, people started asking, what will Robert do now? Will he ever find a role bigger than Iron Man? Or will he disappear again, like before? Even Robert himself had doubts. He said in an interview, "It's always scary when you walk away from something so big. It's like leaving your own identity behind. But I had to." Why? Because this time, he didn't want to be a superhero on screen. He wanted to be one in real life. After Endgame, Robert made a surprising decision. He didn't run to Hollywood. He didn't look for more action movies or big studios. Instead, he bought a beautiful eco-friendly farm in Malibu, California. Yes, a farm. Not for showing off, not for luxury, but for healing. His farm is home to rescue animals, goats, pigs, chickens, cows, organic vegetable gardens, solar-powered energy systems, recycled wood homes. He wanted to live close to nature. He wanted to wake up to birds, not cameras. He wanted his children to grow up with peace, not pressure. He once said, "I spent my early years running. Now I want to sit still and feel the earth under my feet." Robert began practicing gardening, animal care, and environmental activism. He became deeply interested in climate change and how to protect the planet. In 2020, Robert announced something big at an international tech event. He launched a new organization called the Footprint Coalition. Its mission? To use technology and innovation to clean up the earth. He started investing in AI, robotics, clean energy, and sustainable agriculture. Robert used his fame, money, and influence not to buy more cars or mansions, but to help scientists and inventors who are creating tools to heal the planet. He said, "I played a genius billionaire in the movies. Now I want to support real-life geniuses." He's involved in projects like robots that collect plastic from oceans, AI tools that help farmers use less water, new types of battery-powered machines, education for young scientists. This is the real Iron Man, not the one in armor, but the one helping build a better world. Let's go deeper into Robert's personal life, especially his relationship with Susan Downey. She's not just his wife. She is his business partner, creative collaborator, and lifeline. Together, they started a production company called Team Downey. They have produced films like The Judge, 2014, a powerful courtroom drama starring Robert and Robert Duvall; Perry Mason, 2020, an HBO series; and several documentaries about mental health and recovery. Susan is known for her intelligence, discipline, and calm energy. Robert has said, "Without her, I wouldn't be alive. She gave me the courage to become the man I was meant to be." Their marriage is built on trust, boundaries, healing communication, routines that keep Robert away from temptation. Every day they wake up early, meditate, do yoga, take care of their kids, and read together. This is not just love. It's a partnership of growth. He spends time cooking breakfast, reading bedtime stories, teaching them meditation, taking them to nature walks, sharing life lessons in simple words. No shouting, no phones at the dinner table, no Hollywood pressure, just real love. After Endgame, Robert took a break from big blockbusters. But he didn't stop acting. He became selective. He wanted to do projects that had meaning, not just money. He acted in Doolittle, 2020. Though the movie wasn't a hit, he said he enjoyed the experience for his kids. Senior, 2022. A deeply personal documentary about his father, Robert Downey Sr. This documentary, Senior, is one of the most emotional and honest pieces of art Robert has created. It shows the beautiful, painful relationship between father and son. It shows the wounds, the mistakes, the laughter, and the love. Robert made this documentary not for fame, but for closure. He said, "This is not a film. This is a goodbye letter to my dad." And people around the world were moved. They saw a different Robert, not Iron Man, not Sherlock, but a son, a man, a human being who just wanted to say, "I forgive you. I love you." Let's talk numbers, but more importantly, let's talk meaning. Robert Downey Jr.'s net worth today is estimated to be around $300 million. He has multiple homes, expensive cars, a private jet, investments in over 15 companies, business ventures in clean energy, fashion, food, and technology. But ask him what he values the most. He won't say money. He will say his sobriety, his family, his freedom, his peace. That is his real wealth. In the past few years, Robert has given several powerful interviews, speeches, and podcasts. Here are a few things he said that you will love. Worrying is like praying for something you don't want. I think life changes every 5 minutes, so I try not to predict. You need bad things to happen sometimes, or you'll never grow. He often speaks about mental health, letting go of ego, building real discipline, staying present in each moment, finding humor in pain. Robert has said in many interviews, "There's a version of me that existed before the pain, and a better version that was created because of it." He was rich. He was famous. He had opportunities most people dream of. But he lost it all. Why? Because sometimes life breaks you on purpose, not to destroy you, but to remove everything that's fake. All his ego, pride, excuses, lies, and distractions were taken away, until all that was left was a broken man staring at himself in the mirror. And that's where real transformation begins. He learned that pain is a teacher. Pain teaches you what matters. Pain shows you who you really are. Pain introduces you to the real version of yourself, the one behind all the noise. One of the most important things Robert ever did was this. He stopped blaming others. He could have blamed his father for introducing him to drugs, Hollywood for rejecting him, the police for arresting him, the media for calling him a failure. But he didn't. He stood up and said, "This is my life. These are my choices. And now I will change them." That's not easy. Taking responsibility means you stop making excuses. You stop waiting for someone to save you. You stop being a victim. And that's what Robert did. From that day forward, he became the hero of his own story. Not because he was perfect, but because he was honest and accountable. People often ask, how did he stay clean after so many relapses? The answer is discipline and habits. Here are the powerful routines Robert Downey Jr. follows. Wakes up early every morning. Spends 30 minutes in silent meditation. Trains in Wing Chun martial arts. Eats a clean vegan diet. Reads books every day. Philosophy, history, spirituality. Avoids toxic people and gossip. Sleeps early and protects his peace. He treats his mind and body like a temple. He says, recovery is not something you do once. It's something you do every day for the rest of your life. And it's true. Success is not one big event. It's 1,000 small decisions made quietly, consistently, and with courage. He talks to young actors, recovering addicts, and people who feel lost. He shares his pain openly. He never pretends to be perfect. He says, "If I could survive what I went through, so can you." This honesty is what makes him a real role model. Not because he's flawless, but because he turned his flaws into fuel. This is not just Robert's story. This could be your story too. You may not be an actor. You may not be famous. You may not have millions of dollars. But like him, you have a past that hurts you, dreams that scare you, mistakes that follow you, a fire inside you that refuses to die. Here are 10 powerful lessons you can learn from Robert Downey Jr.'s life. 1. It's never too late to change. He was 38 years old, broke, divorced, and called a failure, and still turned his life around. 2. The past doesn't define you. He was a drug addict, prisoner, and dropout. Today, he's loved by millions. 3. One good person can save your life. Susan Levin didn't just love him. She challenged him to be better. 4. Pain is a doorway, not a dead end. His lowest point became his turning point. 5. Discipline is freedom. His strict routines gave him peace, focus, and strength. 6. Silence is power. Through meditation and simplicity, he learned to control his thoughts. 7. Giving is healing. By helping others, he kept his own heart clean. 8. Forgive, even when it hurts. He forgave his father, himself, and everyone who doubted him. 9. Be the hero of your own story. Don't wait for someone else to save you. You are enough. 10. Believe in your comeback. Even if the world gives up on you, you don't have to. Let's end with Robert's own words. Remember that just because you hit bottom doesn't mean you have to stay there. Sometimes you have to get knocked down lower than you've ever been to stand up taller than you ever were. I know who I am today, and I'm proud of that man. Not because he's rich or famous, but because he didn't give up. Dear viewer, if you feel broken, if you feel like it's too late, if you feel like the world doesn't see your worth, please remember Robert Downey Jr.'s story. You can fall, you can fail, you can even lose yourself, but you can still come back, stronger, wiser, better. This is not just a biography. It is a mirror that shows you are powerful beyond imagination. Start today, no matter how small. One step, one choice, one belief. And if Robert could do it, so can you. So now I ask you, what is stopping you? Fear, doubt, failure, people? Robert faced all of them and still rose. Now it's your turn. You are not weak. You are not late. You are not broken beyond repair. You are just one decision away from a completely different life. And it starts now. If this story touched your heart, if it gave you courage, if it reminded you of your power, then share it. Comment what it made you feel. And subscribe for more real stories that change lives. Because we're not just learning English here. We're learning how to become the strongest version of ourselves. See you in the next story. And until then, never give up. Your comeback is waiting.